Hey friend, welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas Encouragement, brought to you by Mark Inc. Ministries. I am Chuck Betters, and as I was thinking about what I would like to share with you over my 6 days of this video series, I went back to the 70s, back to the beginning of my earthly ministry as a pastor. And I tried to wrap up into my thoughts some of the early bits of encouragement, both good and bad, that I received as a young pastor. You know, in the Gospel of Luke, the Bible gives us the birth narrative as spoken by Mary herself to Luke. Mary and Luke had quite a relationship, and he was able to draw from her many of the stories of encouragement that came from the first Christmas. And I wanted to go back to my very first Christmas as a young pastor and my interactions with people back in the early 1970s. The first story that I remember was a call that I got from a family that I had never met, a family that never came to our church. They may have gotten my name out of the phone book, I'm not sure, to come and visit their dying son and brother. It was my very first hospital visit as a young pastor. I was in my early 20s, and I entered the hospital room and came face to face with a young man named Jimmy. Jimmy was mentally challenged, and for all intents and purposes, he was comatose with his eyes open. When I walked into the room, I can see it right now, the expressions on his face. He just stared a hole through me. Never said a word. I don't believe he even blinked his eyes. He looked like he was brain dead. And from what I understand, he was pretty close to that. And I thought, what do I say to this man? How do I share Christ with him, knowing that any day now, any hour, he was going to die? Could he understand me? Would he understand me? Did he have the ability to even hear? And as I stood there at the foot of his bed, he just stared a hole right through me. And the Lord prompted me at that point to share with him the gospel. I thought, if I'm here for a reason. The reason is to share with him the good news of Jesus Christ. And I did. I shared the gospel with him. He never blinked. He never spoke. He never moved his eyes from my eyes. And I just prayed, told Jimmy that I was going to pray that he would trust Christ as his Savior and Lord. A few hours later, Jimmy died. And his family called me. And they shared with me that they wanted me to do his funeral. I had never conducted a funeral before. So he was my first hospital visit and my first funeral. And I shared the gospel again with a crowd that I did not know. And that sermon ended, and the family went their way and I went my way. And I didn't see them again for months. I never received a thank you, not a verbal thank you, not a note, nothing. And I thought, well, I wasn't there to receive thank yous. I was there to share the gospel with Jimmy. And Christmas Eve came, and we had no money. We had a little girl. Our baby was born. We had no money. We were living below the poverty level in Philadelphia. And a knock came at the door on Christmas Eve. We didn't even know how we were going to spend money for gifts for our daughter. I went all over Philadelphia looking for a specific doll, and I did find that doll, and it became her very special doll. But that was it. We had no other gifts to give. And that knock came at the door. I opened the door, and out there, standing on the sidewalk in front of our parsonage, was the woman, the mother of Jimmy, and Jimmy's sister. And the sidewalk, I kid you not, was lined with gifts. Wrapped gifts, just many, many gifts, mainly for our daughter. And they just stood there and looked at me, and I was speechless. And I said, "Thank you so much." They said, "No, thank you for doing what you did for Jimmy." And so my little act of encouragement in going to visit Jimmy, in going to minister to his family at their time of grief, came back to me manyfold. Encouragement has a way of doing that. And that's why Jesus said something about what? It is more blessed to give than it is to receive. So the blessing I received in return was far more significant, not because of the gifts, but because of the act of kindness, the act of encouragement, where those people came and ministered to me and to my family. In our poverty, we found great, great wealth in the gift of encouragement. This year, make it your objective to be people like Jimmy's parent and Jimmy's sister. Be the one who gives that act of encouragement to someone else. It will come back on you manyfold. You cannot outgive God. This is day 1 of the 12 days of Christmas encouragement. And I look forward to coming back to you again and telling you some of these early 70s story. This is my version of the 12 days of Christmas encouragement. I'm going to take you back to the very early days of my ministry and reflect with you, good and bad, on the spirit of biblical encouragement.